What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Halos. I'm your host today, Jared Timms. I'm joined alongside my co-host, my partner in crime, Nate Green.
Uh,
Nate, how you doing?
Great start.
Well, new,
Oh man,
new,
good.
new ownership per se means we got to start stuff a little
We'll
differently.
see. We'll
We'll
see.
see. We'll see. So,
I mean, yes, there will be, but we'll see how long it takes.
yeah. I mean, like I said, we're going to talk about this for days, weeks, months to come. We're not talk. I don't think we're going to talk about it too much today.
No.
Which is cool, and I'm all for it. But we're going to start today off, kind of like an off-season day. Nate, I got a question for you. Question of the day. I know. This is fantastic. All right,
This is
so
great.
I don't know how true the report is. We just talked about this. You know what's
Yeah.
coming up. I don't know how true the report is, but there was some rumor out there, and I don't have it confirmed, that the Angels were close to signing Julio Rodriguez as a 16-year-old in 20, what do we say? It was 2017 as we were looking this up, 2017. Instead, they signed Shohei Ohtani, which I would assume has everything to do in the world with why they didn't sign Julio that year, if that's even the case. Now, besides the point, whether or not they sign him or not, it is what it is. Who'd you rather have right now, though? Julio or present, like, not, and don't give me that BS answer that, like, oh, the Angels didn't develop, so we don't.
Uh,
They don't give me that. Like, the Angels developed Julio into who he is today with the Mariners, and Shohei Ohtani is the same guy. Who would you rather have?
I'd still rather have Shohei Ohtani.
Wow.
That's yeah, not that
Now,
hard.
now,
Not
so
that hard of a question for
are
me.
you signing Ohtani to the same contract you signed that they signed Julio to, or same? Let's say same hypothetical. So obviously, it won't be the same contract, but like same dollar figure. Like, was it 210 technically a year, but
I,
could get up to 450 or something stupid like that? Like,
I really don't mind
something
that
like that.
contract. Like I know a lot of people are upset about it and saying, "Oh, that could really handcuff the Mariners and this and that." First of all, the Mariners aren't going to be close to the luxury tax. That's not really the way they roll. And plus, they're not really getting too many free agents there. You can argue that they got Robinson Cano, but that's one free agent, like big name free agent. They got Robbie Ray, sure, but they probably overpaid compared to the rest of the market. So um, I think a little bit of it is they know that there's not going to be another superstar that's going to want to come to Seattle. That's not really where superstars want to come. So I don't really mind the contract. I actually really like the contract for them because if he plays really, really well, and like, yeah, it costs him a little bit more money that he plays well, but he's playing well. Like you can't be upset about paying him. What is it? It's going to get up to like 40 million. And it's like, okay, but that's like if he wins MVP and you know every single accolade he possibly can get, it gets up to 40 million. He could still be a top 5 player, top 3 player in the American League, not win MVP, still put up really, really good numbers and finish around 30, 35 million, which is what Mike Trout is making. Now, is he going to be putting up Mike Trout numbers? Probably not. But when you're in Seattle, you're not going to get a superstar. Like it just doesn't happen for them. I don't know why. I think part of it is it's the toughest travel in baseball. And next year, I don't like Seattle next year because they're going to have to travel even more than every other team because they're going to have to play every team. They're not going to be able to travel within the division anymore. So it's going to be a lot more travel for them. So I really like the contract that they signed with Julio Rodriguez. And if he's not as good, so you're paying him 20 million. We did that with Justin Upton. It sucks, but it could be way, way worse. Shohei Ohtani with that contract, would I sign him to that contract? I would. The year thing is the one that is so hard for me to do with Shohei Ohtani, just because he's doing things that haven't been done before. We don't really know how long he's going to be able to pitch for. He's one injury away from possibly not being a starting pitcher ever again. He's already had Tommy John once. He has one more Tommy John. He's probably not pitching. And if he does, he's probably pitching. Yeah, if he does, it's probably out of the pen, or it changes the way he's used. If he's just a hitter, is he worth $50 million or $45 million, whatever it is? Is he? I don't know. Maybe so. If he's putting up ridiculous numbers because maybe he's just focusing on hitting and maybe he's hitting closer to 280, 290 and he's still got the power and everything. Maybe. I don't know. That's not really something you want to even think about of him just hitting. Um, but just with the injury concerns, I wouldn't give him that 13-year deal, even if it was closer to the same age, just because when you're pitching and hitting, it's a lot on the body, and I don't know how long he's going to be able to do that for. But no, I definitely would love to give him a contract based on accolades and things like that, where it's like, hey, your base salary is 30, but if you go out and win an MVP and a Cy Young, and you help us get to the playoffs, and yeah, maybe you get up to 50. Fine, that's pretty reasonable for everyone, because it's pretty hard to be upset about the Angels making the playoffs and Ohtani making 50 million. As long as they made the playoffs, I think everybody would be like, whatever he's making is fine with us, as long as him and Trout are playing well and they're in the playoffs.
Winning cures a lot. It's I think that's like the motto of everything we say normally. Like we would never argue with any of this stuff if winning was happening. If like the Angels are in a winning situation right now, we'd be like, eh. So what? The Angels are selling the team. It goes to it is what it is. Or if like the Angels made the playoffs like a couple times with Trout, it's like already selling the team. Good for him, type of thing.
Same
So
with Rendon. Like, I think everyone's tune changes with Rendon. If Rendon got hurt for the first 2 months of the year, comes back and absolutely rakes, and they make the playoffs with him, I think people are like, you know what? Who cares? He only played 110 games. We got to the playoffs with him. He played in the playoff series, or the however many series it was, and he played good enough, or he was fine.
yeah.
I don't think people would be super upset if the Angels were making the playoffs and Rendon was still playing 110 games, as long as his 110 games were more, in the August, September, October range.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So I mean, for those of you on Twitter, go ahead and drop it below who you'd rather have. I'm intrigued to know. Or go ahead and add us on Twitter or Instagram. Let us know. I'm intrigued to know what you guys would say there. If you'd rather, I already know what you guys would rather have, because I know our listeners pretty well. I feel like you guys would say, "Oh, Shohei Ohtani, no doubt about it." But it's interesting to think about for sure. I don't know. I'm sure it doesn't change much or anything like that. But it's interesting. It's definitely interesting to think about. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for listening to this podcast here at Angels or Talking Halos. Wow, dude, we are off today. I'm so tired. Here at Talking Halos, appreciate it. If you could go ahead and subscribe wherever you are listening, or on YouTube, go ahead and pound that subscribe button. Click on that bell, I believe is what people say as well. If you want to know when we're going to be dropping our podcast, I'll give you a hint though. It's usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So you're welcome for that. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. All you got to do is look up Talking Halos. You can follow myself on Twitter, Jared_Tims. You can follow Nate at Nate Green 34. Guys, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple or something like that, you know what's going to happen right now. But if you're on YouTube, we're going to keep this rolling. So let's go ahead and Nate, let's talk about it here. Jared Walsh. We had to bring up a little Walshy action. There's a lot of interesting things going on with Walsh. Diagnosed with TOS, thoracic outlet syndrome.
There you go.
Thoracic.
Yep.
Thoracic outlet syndrome. Not very good. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physical therapist. Do not have that license. So I'm not even going to try to explain what it is. I will try to explain. So I guess it happens when you hurt your ribs, and it causes a lack of blood flow to the shoulders. And
one of the issues.
One of the issues is that. So that could definitely be it. I think, Nate, you kind of pinpoint when that could have happened.
Yeah, it looks like Walsh had a rib injury not too long ago, and it's possible. Again, we're not doctors. We don't know the entire scenario here, but TOS is. It honestly looks like he's the first position player in the major leagues to ever have TOS, which is amazing. Yes, he pitched a little bit, but I don't think this had anything to do with the pitching. I think it was he broke his rib, and they say it happens a lot with guys who throw overhead. Football players, baseball players, swimmers. It's very common in those sports. Not too common in basketball, even though Marcel Fultz had it, I believe, 2 years ago, which they were trying to figure out how that happened. So very interesting for Walsh to be the first position player. We think we looked very hard. I was even talking to Taylor Blake Ward about it, and Taylor and I were like, I can't find any other position player to have this. So very, very odd injury for someone who's not throwing max effort all the time over the top, hundreds and hundreds of times a day. Um, this is a very scary injury. I'm not going to lie here. This injury has hampered a lot of careers. Guys have had TOS and they've come back and played for a year or two. Some guys have not come back. Other guys have come back and been, very, very average players like Chris Archer. Chris Archer was really, really fun to watch, had TOS, and now he's turned into like barely a number 5 starter on a team. So you just look at what happens with this. So very, very scary injury. Trevor Rosenthal is the most recent guy, I believe, and he has not pitched in 2 years. So they just came out and said that he probably will not pitch this year. That would be 2 full years without him pitching in professional baseball. Now, do I expect Jared Walsh to miss 2 full years? I do not. I think that it's kind of similar to a position player with Tommy John, where the rehab is going to be a little bit shorter and the length of this is going to be a little bit less. I still think it could take a full year for him to get back. But this is potentially a career threatening injury depending on how his body reacts to potential surgery and how it comes back with rehab and everything. Like, this is not an easy thing. I mean, there are times where like there's numbness in his hand and like he can't feel anything on that side. So it's very, very interesting, and you really have to begin to think like, is this guy someone that is going to be the answer long term? He'll have his first year of ARB, which gives him 3 years before he's a free agent. What does that look like for him? What does that look like for the Angels? This is not a great time for him to get hurt, especially this type of injury. With the new ownership, are they going to want to go get a new first baseman? Josh Bell's a free agent. I'm sure there are going to be free agent first base or even trade acquisition first basemen out there as well. So this is definitely an opportune time for Jared Walsh to go down with this injury, not just for the Angels, but also for him and his, money's sake.
Well, yeah, definitely. A couple things here that I feel like I need to point out. One, a position player has never had this before, so
not that we know of, at least in the big leagues.
He could be opening day ready for all we know. The fact that they put him on the 60-day already, like within a day, is very worrisome to me that happened. However, they just kind of figured probably, he's done for the season, So we'll kind of see how that rolls, how reports come out as we go on. If he has surgery, if he needs surgery, what that's like. Number 2, you need to start looking for a replacement. Apologies, 13-week-old puppy out there if anybody can hear it. You need to start looking for a replacement. No, it's not Sonny Deshar. And say that right now for these you guys who want him, he is not the answer. Who could be the answer though, and is kind of interesting, that I know a lot of people, and I threw it out there, and a lot of people hated it. And I know, trust me, Nate, you're gonna compare. You're gonna compare apples to iPhones. I'm gonna let you know. And that was a bad example because Apple and iPhone. You're comparing oranges to iPhones. Yeah, I know. I screwed that one up. I know you're laughing your ass off. Yeah, that's my bad. You're comparing. Well, you get what I'm saying though. You're comparing apples to.
Having a great day.
It's one of those days for me. But, Nate, would it make you feel any better at all if the Angels extended Shohei Ohtani and he was also a first baseman? Your first baseman of the future, and then you could figure out a way for Anthony Rendon to DH more, Mike Trout to DH more. Heck, even if Shohei Ohtani played like 3 games a week at first base, and you could get other guys in that DH spot, Joe Adell. Like, guys, if you've been listening to us, that's probably, I think that's our biggest issue with extending Shohei Ohtani is that DH spot. Like, that's what worries me the absolute most is
Mike Trout has to DH once a week minimum.
Rendon
with
has
this
to
back,
DH once
yeah,
a week,
with this
right?
back
I
injury,
mean,
he's going to have to DH once a week minimum. Anthony Rendon's going to have to DH once a week minimum with the hips. So
Jared Walsh
that,
may have to DH once. I know that's like kind
yeah,
of weird to think about that, but like it's
yeah.
another guy that's like coming off an injury that's like he might have to DH once a week, you know? So that's
Would that be awesome? Yes, I think that would be
it's not going to happen.
absolutely outstanding if he was able to do that. I don't think it's going to happen. It brings tremendous value. I think that's the biggest thing that I've been talking about with Shohei Ohtani and why I don't think he fits the Angels long term is because it's very hard to get your key pieces the DH time that they need. Like we're paying Anthony Rendon, whether you guys like it or not. Anthony Rendon is making $35 to $38 million any given year.
And when he's on
No,
the field, when he's on the field, it's very good.
and the Angels are winning when he's on the field,
Yes.
first of all. Second of all, nobody's trading for that contract. Like, there's not teams lining up to call the Angels to say, oh, we want Anthony Rendon. And even if they were, what are we getting? A 25-year-old who hasn't made it above single A? Is that really worth it for us to say, yeah, we'll take the money? There's probably not another third baseman that we can go get that's going to play at an all-star level like that for $35 million. And even if there is, who says they want to come play in Anaheim? We haven't had the best track record with players lately. We cut Justin Upton, we cut we cut Albert Pujols, we trade away Anthony Rendon. All the guys that don't produce, we even cut Josh Hamilton at one point. So you go through and you say all the guys that don't produce. Do I want to go to an org where if I'm not producing right away, I'm getting cut? Probably not. So that doesn't look good for the org. Could Anthony Rendon slide in at first base? Sure, that's an option as well. I think he brings so much value at third base because he plays very good defensively. But if he's able to slide over there, that could be an answer. But yeah, Shohei Ohtani playing first base would bring tremendous value because it allows these guys to DH when they need a day off. Because we are paying Mike Trout, Anthony Rendon, all these guys $30+ million, and Mike Trout's the best player on the planet when he's healthy. If we are sitting the best player on the planet once or twice a week, it's hard to win games. You know, like we weren't winning games with Mike Trout. We got Mike Trout back. We just swept Toronto, right? And I'm not saying that Mike Trout's the reason that we just beat Toronto, but having Mike Trout in the lineup changes the lineup drastically. It goes from like Shohei Ohtani and nobody else to, oh wow, this lineup gets a lot deeper because guys are able to slide down and Trout's getting on base because they don't want to pitch to him as much, and then he's hitting home runs, this and that. It just makes the lineup that much better. So yes, if Shohei Ohtani could play first base, I would be absolutely thrilled with that. Do I think it's possible? Sure. Do I think it's likely? No.
I agree. I'm just throwing out an option there. I think, like I said, at minimum 3 days a week there, half the games there at first base, and you can DH him half the games. Like if you could almost hypothetically, you could go back to how he was originally, where they were like, you're going to DH, and then a day before your start, you're going to sit. Day after your start, you're going to sit. Oh, instead of you're going to play first base, and then day before your start, you're going to DH. Day after your start, you're going to DH. Then go back to first base. I said, I'd love it. I think that'd be super awesome. You would think about I'd think about an extension at that point, because then you technically could have a first baseman of the future right there. If he stops pitching, if he gets hurt or something, has to stop pitching, you got a first baseman at that point long term.
Yep.
I'm cool with that. In fact, like that, I think ends up happening anyways. Or you have a DH of the, DH first baseman type of guy, and that's cool. First basemen are always out there. And we talked about it before. You could have traded Walsh and you could go get another one for league minimum type of guy, So just an option there. And speaking of possible infield spots, let me backtrack there for a second. Fun fact, first time since 2016 that the Angels pitching staff has given up 3 runs or less in a 3-game series, by the way.
That's impressive.
Pretty cool. Last guys to do it. 2016, it was Hector Santiago went 7 shutty. Matt Shoemaker went complete game shutout, 13 punchies. And then Jared Weaver came in and 7 1-run innings, 5 hit 1-run innings against the Chicago White Sox. So Fernando Salas, I think, closed out one of those games as well. So you're welcome for some of those names.
Matt. Like that guy just always kept us in the game. Love that guy.
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know why that even came to my head, but I had to look that stat up today because they were very Angels played a very well-rounded series, and
In a
we're not
tough
talking
place
about
to play. In a very tough place to play. Toronto's a very
it.
offensive ballpark, and yeah, very impressed with the pitching staff and some of the young guys too. I mean, Detmers threw the ball well. Ohtani threw the ball really, really well. Davidson threw the ball, good enough, I guess.
He threw the ball well. Just say he threw the ball well.
Yeah, 4 shutout, 5 walks. That's perfect. Exactly what I love to see as a pitching guy. So I would say through the ball good enough to get the job done. I'm not going to say well because when you walk 5 guys in 4 innings, that's not great. That's pitching with mirrors and things like that. So he did a good enough job, but I wouldn't say well.
That's fine. That's fine. Last thing before we let everybody go, I don't want to talk about the series. I mean, like I said,
we just did.
We're on the that's what you get for series talk. I think we can bring up. I think we bring a lot more value than talking about series on this because
there are 15 games out of the playoffs.
Yeah. So, last thing before we let everybody go, got to talk a little Luis Rengifo. We might have talked about him before. I think we kind of want to talk about him again here. I don't think we did. You think we did? I don't think we did.
Very, very briefly. Not as much as we're about to.
Luis Rengifo, you're starting second baseman next year.
It depends. It depends on what the Angels are going to do. If they go get a shortstop and that starting shortstop is legitimate, yeah, and I know already. I can already hear the people on Twitter saying,
John.
I can hear no. I can hear the Twitter people, thanks to you, yelling about Andrew Velasquez and how I don't think he's a starting shortstop.
He's
so
not.
thank you for
I
that.
agree with. I agree with you. Like
I know, but you got that
like,
going. So
Andrew Velasquez. You know what Andrew Velasquez is this year was what John McDonald was to the Angels, but like the Angels had a better team when they had John McDonald. Like that's what Velasquez should have.
So I'm gonna say if they get a legitimate all-star shortstop, there's gonna be a couple guys out there. There's gonna be Carlos Correa,
David Fletcher.
Not going there. There's gonna be Trey Turner. There's going to be who am I missing? Xander Bogaerts is going to be there. So those are
Swanson. I know you hate Dansby, but like that.
I don't hate him. I just if he's making the same amount of money as Trey Turner, I'm not paying.
No.
If he's making the
Trey
same,
Turner's the best shortstop in baseball. So
if he's making the same amount of money as Xander Bogaerts, I'm not paying him that much. Obviously, it's just like everyone. They have a price tag for me, and if their price tag is a little bit too high, I'd rather go somewhere else and spend the same amount of money for someone else. So, if they go get a shortstop that is a Xander Bogaerts, that is a Trey Turner, that is a Carlos Correa, maybe I don't know who else, right? Then I'm okay with Luis Rengifo starting at second base. If your starting shortstop is David Fletcher
or Luis Rengifo
or Andrew Velasquez, and your second baseman is, fill in the blank with Rengifo, Fletcher, whatever, I'm out. I don't think you're a winning ball club. I'm a big believer and you have to be good up the middle. And I don't think they're very good up the middle this year. I've never been a huge Stassi fan. I know I backed them during that, crazy 7 air streak where he looked terrible. And I know he wasn't hitting at that time.
You don't. I
was just saying it wasn't his fault.
You don't like Stassi playing 120 games.
Yeah,
you like Stassi.
I'm not a Stassi guy.
Like it. Yeah, that's fine.
He's a great number 2 catcher, sure. I wouldn't even say great. I
think he's a good platoon guy.
He's a competent number 2 guy.
You should get a platoon with someone not named.
Center field, they're great. You got Mike Trout. As long as he's healthy, you're good. Shortstop, you got to play up there. You got to be able to play something. You got to be able to hit something. It's taken him until August 28th to hit over 200, and he's playing every day. He's not playing, once a month, once a week. Like, this dude's playing every day. He needs to be hitting 250, 260, 270, even with no power. I'm fine with the no power. I will not lose my mind with no power. But if you are hitting 200, you should not be playing every single day. So Luis Rengifo playing second base every single day, totally fine with it. If that moves David Fletcher to a utility role where that would actually make the Angels a lot better, because we already said Rendon will need some time to DH. That will give him a spot. We already said Trout will need some time to DH. Maybe you slide one of the outfielders to center and you move Fletcher to a corner. It just gives the Angels a lot of versatility with guys who need to DH. Now we have a competent player to play there. So, and even if Rengifo is not playing that well, you have David Fletcher to kind of step in and play second base for a little bit, because Neto could be knocking on the door next year. He very well could be knocking on the door around this time next year if he continues to play at the level he's been playing. I know a lot of his hits have come with 2 strikes, and that's something I have pointed out to you. I think part of that is because his swing has gotten a little bit. He's got the 2-strike approach, so he swings a lot better with 2 strikes. You're probably going to look at the stats and say, oh, he's actually hitting really, really good with less than 2 strikes too. But it just feels like every time I look, his home runs are with 2 strikes, his doubles are with 2 strikes. I think it's because the approach. And I think if he takes that approach, the 2-strike approach, it could be August next year, and we could be saying, wow, Rengifo's hitting 220, 230, 240 with 5-6 homers. Neto's hitting, 290, 300 in Double-A. Maybe we call him up, put him at second base, and just start the middle as Xander Bogaerts, Trey Turner, or Carlos Correa and Zach Neto up the middle, and say, let's go be competitive for 6 years. If Zach Neto can play up the middle, that's fine. But if you are going to say Andrew Velasquez and Luis Rengifo, David Fletcher, Luis Rengifo, that's not going to be a competitive enough roster to win baseball games at a high level. Yeah, you might win baseball games, but you're not going to be a playoff team long term. And that's kind of my opinion on the Rengifo thing.
One, I'm good with Rengifo playing that position. Next year, I am cool with it.
Totally fine.
Totally cool with it, as long as you get a shortstop. One of those guys. I'm full agreement with you. Number 2, for those of you like, yeah, Zach Neto's your future shortstop. If you can get a guy that we mentioned, Zach Neto is more than happy to play second base. You slide Rengifo to that 5th infield spot, and David Fletcher to that 5th infield spot. Whatever you want to do,
Who
you
knows?
look at good.
Maybe Rendon slides across, and one of those shortstops slides over, and Neto slides over. Like it gives you a lot of versatility and things to do. Like Carlos Correa is a big shortstop. He might not be playing shortstop at age 34, 35, 36 of his deal. He might slide over to third. Maybe Rendon slides over to first. Maybe Neto slides over to short. And it's like, oh, wow. Like, it's still the same group of guys. They're all playing the positions we want them to play, whatever. But, like, Trey Turner can play second base once he gets a little bit older, if he starts to lose a step or two. Xander Bogaerts says when he got called up as a kid, he was playing third base. So these shortstops do not have to play shortstop for 6, 7, 8 years. There's nothing in their contract that says they can't move to another position. Whether Zach Neto is playing second base or shortstop, if he is playing on a daily basis for the Angels and they are winning games, who cares what position he's playing as long as the Angels are winning games and Zach Neto is playing well. I think that's all that really, really matters.
So winning cures a lot. So
it does.
Fun podcast there. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Shohei Ohtani playing first base. The future of the Angels infield is interesting, to say the least, and kind of just see how it goes. So as always, guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast here at Talking Halos. Go ahead and subscribe wherever you are listening. If you are watching us on YouTube, go ahead and pound that subscribe button. Hit that bell. I'll give you a secret, though, if you didn't hear at the beginning. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is when we come out with episodes. So you're welcome for that. Guys, just want to thank you again for listening to this podcast. Subscribe. You can follow us on all of our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow myself on Twitter, Jared_Tims, Nate on Twitter, NateGreen34. And guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.